Welcome, and thank you for listening in. This is Dan Alcorn. Today is Saturday, October 21st, 2017, and this conversation is part of a series where I discuss topics that often come up when speaking with Medicare clients or their families. My guest today is Beth from Schenectady County, New York. Welcome, Beth.
Well, welcome, Dan. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really glad that you asked me to do this.
Well, I'm delighted you have agreed to participate in sharing your story. Thank you. The story has to do with very expensive medication you were prescribed and how a little-known New York program, EPIC, has been there to help you out. So how did you first learn about EPIC?
Well, I retired 3 years ago, and for the first year, I had a plan that was different. Then I had to change plans, and I started talking to you, and you were explaining to me all the options, and you mentioned EPIC. My first impression was, I'm only on 2 or 3 medications, and it's probably income-based, and, you know, at that point, I mean, I did have some money stored away for retirement, and I was on a small income part-time and never thought I'd be eligible for EPIC.
That's a common response. They said, I don't think I'm eligible for it. And then, in fact, I did a little bit of research prior to this call, and there are just a handful of states that offer something similar to EPIC. And in those states, if your income is over $30,000 or $40,000 for a couple, it's not available to the general public. And so, in New York State, as you now know, the annual income eligibility is up to $75,000 for an individual, or $100,000 for married couples. And I might point out that EPIC is an acronym for Elderly Pharmaceutical Insurance Coverage. And so you didn't think you were eligible with your joint income being below that $100,000. We said we enrolled you in EPIC, and again, you were just on some minor Tier 1 and Tier 2 generic drugs and didn't see any financial benefit. When were you first prescribed a drug beyond Tier 1 or Tier 2?
Well, let me just tell you, I started out with EPIC in April of 2016. Because when I talked to you, I said, look, I might as well look at it. I mean, it's free. You don't pay anything. And so I did apply in 2016. And to my surprise, I was approved. And because I don't look at what I have in the savings. I just look strictly at income.
Right. And
so I'd never had to use it until I was put on this expensive drug. And I started using it on 5/15 of this year. And before then, I would let the pharmacist know I have EPIC, but I never really ended up using the EPIC. Then on around March or April, I started to get very ill, and the doctor just prescribed a medication, a very common medication. You see it advertised. And I said, oh, okay, I'll try that. Well, then I got a call from the gal in the office that does the financial, and she said, I just want you to know that this drug runs between $19,000 and $25,000 a dose.
Wow.
I almost fell off my chair.
$25,000 a dose.
A dose, and you get a dose every 2 months. So I contacted my insurance company for my Part D. And it was not on formulary, no surprise there.
This is your Medicare Part D plan?
Correct.
And the drug was not on the formulary?
Not.
Okay.
No. So I contacted the gal at the doctor's office again, and they put through what they call prior approval, requesting approval for the drug. And that took some time, but I did get a call, and they did approve it. And so I thought, oh, thank goodness. But it was a Tier 5, meaning there's a 20% coinsurance. I would have to pay 20% of the cost. And I did my math.
20% of the $20,000.
Right. It was actually 19. Well, it ended up being 19, but yes, okay. 20% of 20,000. And I did the math, and even every 2 months, there's no way I would be able to afford that drug. So I contacted Epic, and I explained my situation, and they said that because I did have the plan, that I would cover, but you make sure that it's an approved pharmacy for New York State.
Right. New York Epic works only with New York pharmacies or mail orders that work within New York as well.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And so thank you for adding that because you're helping to explain it. So I contacted my insurance company, and they said, oh, we have a specialty. This is a specialty drug, so we have a specialty pharmacy, and what they do is direct send it to your doctor's office. And I said, okay, because I have to go there to receive the dose. And I said, well, what pharmacy is it from? And they explained. And so I called Epic, and they said, we won't cover that. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I called them back. No, I went to a Walmart, because Walmart is my pharmacy. And I went to Walmart, and I explained my dilemma. And having a good relationship with them over the years of being there, he took a great interest in this, and he looked up the drug, and sure enough, they have a supplier in Florida. They're Walmart pharmacy specialists in Florida, and they could ship it to the New York Walmart.
Which makes it then become a New York pharmacy.
Correct.
I got it.
So then I called my insurance company for Part D pharmacy, and I said, would you allow this pharmacy to formulate the medication and send it to Schenectady? And they said yes, they would. And so that is how I went about getting the drug. And so now...
Just to recap, your Medicare Part D plan, the drug was not on its original formulary. Your provider either requested what's called a prior authorization or what they call a formulary exception. The Medicare Part D provider said, okay, we'll approve the drug, but they wouldn't approve they would go to the specialty drug, but Epic didn't recognize that specialty drug pharmacy because it wasn't tied to New York State. However, the local Walmart is, and their partners in Florida were able to formulate the drug, ship it to the local Walmart, so you picked it up at a New York pharmacy, which works, of course, with New York State Epic. Did I get that right? Yes, you got it right.
You got it right. And it's a specialty drug. It has to be kept at a certain temperature, refrigerated temperature. So so what happens is the doctor prescribes it. The prescription goes to Walmart, who notifies the Florida pharmacy. They ship it to my local Walmart, and I go and pick it up and take it to the doctor's office myself, and they inject it.
So now this drug has a 20%, they call that a specialty Tier 5 drug, where your share is 20%. Your Part D plan says it's 20% co-share. But Epic doesn't kick into effect right away. Based on your income, you may have a deductible at the pharmacy before Epic benefits begin. So you may have paid some of that copay, that co-share of 20% before you met your Epic deductible?
Yes. And what's interesting is that any medications that you're on, even if you don't use Epic, it goes through Epic because the pharmacy has the Epic card. And so my deductible is a little over $1,600, which is pretty expensive.
Your Epic deductible.
My Epic, yes. But any medication, whether I paid $1, $2, $20, it doesn't matter.
That's a great
It's applied.
point. We encourage everybody to provide the pharmacy with your Epic card number because they report all of your copays to Epic. So what you're pointing out is that if you paid $2 here, $5, and $15 there, that all counts towards that $1,600 Epic deductible, correct?
That's correct. And it's when you reach your deductible, that happens to be my deductible, but other, there's a whole list depending on your Social Security income. Right. And so when you reach that $1,600, that's when they kick in. So I wasn't...
What do you mean that's when it kicks in? So you go in and get your dose, and it's roughly $20,000. 20% is your share. That's about $4,000. Epic is now kicked in. You've met your deductible. And so what's your copay on this medicine now?
$10.
$10.
Yep.
That's remarkable. And it'll be $10 what? And through the end of this year, or how does that work?
Yes. Yeah, in January I have to meet my deductible again.
So the plan, the deductible resets on January 1st, and probably the first dosage you would meet that deductible if assuming your income remains the same.
That's right. That's right. And it gets adjusted as your income changes. New York will do that on its own. But any medication that I had before that, so I didn't have to pay $1,600. I had already applied to that deductible prior, right. So that was a big help. But yes, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you compare it to the $4,000 a dose it would have been, there's no comparing. $10 is all I'm paying. So to me, having this Epic plan was a miracle, an absolute miracle. Because I wouldn't have been able to get that drug, and I would still remain very ill.
Oh, my goodness. So the population of New York State is about 20 million, just under 20 million people. And I was at a conference within the last few weeks where there was a representative of Epic who informed us that there's just slightly over 300,000 Epic members, which means, out of a population of 20 million people, I don't know the math, but I would think that there's several million that are 65 and over that are not on Medicaid. And so this is the people who are eligible for Epic is, just a small percentage have actually taken advantage of it. And as I mentioned, I've had these community meetings in Schenectady and Albany counties this past week, and I asked the attendees, raise your hand, who's heard of, who has an Epic card? And Beth, it's remarkable. There were no hands raised.
Wow.
It's the best kept secret in the state. And so having you join in today and sharing your story is just one attempt to try to spread the word that you're a real live example of how this made a difference in your life, clearly made a difference in your budget. And so in our parting, in closing comments here, what would you say to the folks at my community meetings who've never heard about Epic?
Well, I've been telling my friends about it, and I would think that if nothing else, go and apply. If you turn down, you've lost nothing. If you apply and you get Epic, then you have that security. Because if I hadn't already had Epic, I would have had to apply and start from scratch. So it's very, very simple. It's a very simple form, and you just send that in, and they approve you most likely, and they send you a card. And
where
then you just take
that form, Beth?
In the mail from New York Epic. I got that one online. I went online to get that form.
Well, and I carry them around too, so we will be able to, anybody who wants, certainly I can provide an Epic application. So just to recap.
Maybe it was you.
To be eligible for Epic, you have to be 65 years of age, so do not apply a week before. In fact, Epic will return the application if you apply before your 65th birthday. You have to be a resident of New York State, enrolled in a Medicare Part D program, and have income under $75,000 for an individual or $100,000 for a married couple. And that's what makes this program so unique in the United States, that there are other states, a handful of other states that offer something similar, but nowhere near with the income levels that are available here in New York State. You're absolutely right. Spread the good word.
Yeah. And I want to stress the word income, because we did have a savings. I have a 401k, and I thought, oh, that will blow me out of the water, and it didn't, because it's not income.
It's not asset-based. EPIC
is
purely income-based. It does not count assets. And so, and yet still only 313,709 members. You have to be several million more who are eligible and who could be taking advantage of this. And so thank you, Beth, so much for sharing your story this morning. We're going to pass the word around and encourage others to, because you never know. As you say, when you first enrolled in EPIC, you had just some generic medications, and you really didn't know if it was ever going to make a big difference in your budget. But in your case, this has turned out to be, as you say, quite a miracle. Yeah,
you never know. You can get ill tomorrow, and the doctor orders you something like this, and you're like, now what am I going to do?
Well, go ahead.
So, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me tell my story.
Oh, I'm delighted that you're telling your story. Thank you very much, and we'll talk with you soon. Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Thanks, Dan.